going on, guys? We are back tonight with a video for you on the meta and the changes that just happened today. So I want to run through the changes and then kind of give you a little kind of what I think, I could call it predictions on the meta, where we think the meta is going to go from here after these changes, and just some speculation, you know, what we think could happen as it shakes out. And I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on it as well. So first change we saw, let's go pull it up, was to James, and we saw a buff. And I really like this. I think I might have mentioned this card getting buffed on one of my previous videos. I thought this was a little underpowered, but I like it. I like the fact that they took it from basically plus 12 until played on your Life on Land and History and took it to plus 14 until played. So not a huge buff, but definitely makes it more viable, right? And that's what we want. We want something that when played, we feel like we're getting our money's worth out of it. Kind of like there's so many good cards now, like World Turtle, I think, was plus 14 until played. The Antichrist card was plus 14. So it didn't really make sense that this card was down at plus 12 and definitely made it not as viable. I do think this card could start seeing more meta play, especially with the printing of Goatman. I think now we have a little nasty little combo here between those two cards. I wouldn't, how do I say it? I also wouldn't doubt that you see some type of Lionheart pairing, maybe with Unruly Rulers, or I could see Espionage package coming about. So let's see. So real quick, I'll show Goatman just because I mentioned it for those that didn't know. So now you'll have a plus 14 for James. You could potentially get this plus 14 from Goatman on your entire deck as well. So that's plus 28 between the two cards there. So that's a nice little combo. If you tag in Lionheart and some Unruly Ruler package, this provides plus 28 until played. Also, you could tag in Cool Cats as well and benefit because you do need Life on Land cards, right? So that plus 28 buff there is huge. So I could really see people wanting to steer into that direction. There's also the Espionage package with 5 Eyes. So let's go check out that real quick. I could see this kind of people wanting to steer into this card now a little more because of James and Goatman. So when played, 5 of your random Espionage cards, wherever they are, get that plus 25 perm. So that's huge. There's also that card that does take advantage of Espionage being by itself. Where is it? The new card here. You've got William. If this is the only Espionage card in your deck, your opponent's cards in hand gain 15 on the turn. Your cards in hand 15 perm. So that's kind of cool too. If you don't go 5 Eyes and you want to just put one Espionage card in your deck, maybe with the Lionheart package or something, I could see that being pretty viable. So that's it on Goat. Let me see. What was the other changes here? I got to pull up my list. I want to say the next buff we saw was really just putting Epidemiology back to where it was. So I guess my thought was where it was previously, where it said your opponent's cards, wherever they are, with 2 or less base energy or 7 or more base energy cost plus 1. It really wasn't hitting a whole lot for the most part, so it didn't make sense like that. So just putting it back, basically how the card originally read, your opponent's cards, wherever cost plus 1 until played, it still costs 20 on itself, so it's not too crazy. I really never thought this card was too crazy to begin with. I know in tiny decks specifically, it was kind of a nuisance, but it was one deck, and I don't think it's that backbreaking. Especially, you know, strategy, right? You need to plan around the fact that you could come up against inflation decks. So if you're not strategizing and you're not planning that out, I don't think you're playing right. I think you're being a little greedy if that's the case. In your deck building. Let's see. So not too much to say on that card specifically, just because it's going back to its previous state. I do like this buff, though, they did with Kraken. Kraken previously only had 10 base power. They brought it up to 50, which now I feel like makes this card a lot more viable. So now you're getting your ocean cards in hand, get that plus 50, which is really plus 150. So that's 200 power you're getting on Kraken, which is pretty nice for 6 energy. I think that puts it in the mythic, basically the mythic tier now, in my opinion. So with Kraken Buff, I really think this could be now more viable, maybe in a Talos build. I think this card's a little underutilized as well. If your deck has 9 or more ocean cards, your non-ocean cards get the plus 20 until played. So I could see maybe some type of Talos, Kraken, maybe ocean mammals with Petunia. They just buffed Petunia as well. So you can see this card as well didn't have this return effect on it. Your plant life and ocean mammals, wherever they are, get plus 13 until played. So maybe taking advantage of some ocean mammals. And then I really like another card here, Cyberspace. You don't see it utilized a lot, but it kind of slots in nice with Talos. If your deck has 8 or more oceans and 8 or more arts and culture cards, your cards, wherever they are, get that plus 16 until played. So combo Talos, Cyberspace, Kraken, maybe Petunia, and then slot in a bunch of ocean mammals. That could be a thing. I haven't tried it yet to see, but I do think with Kraken getting the buff, it's definitely going to make that oceans a little more viable, especially since Cephalopods is already pretty strong on its own. I do like the fact that it's got Big Fin Reef for energy fixing, and then you get the package of Colossal Squid. And what else? You can do Colossal Squid. You could even go Caribbean Reef Octopus, Pfeiffer's Flamboyant Cuttlefish. There's so many options here that are really playable cards. Mimic Octopus is good. Flapjack Octopus, again, energy reduction. So Oceans definitely could see a lot more play, in my opinion, now with the buff to Kraken. Let's see. What else did we see? So touched on Kraken. I touched on Petunia as well. They did buff Chaos, which is interesting. I am not sure yet, though, on the actual buff. I've heard some speculation to what that is. I don't want to say for sure because I'm not certain myself. I don't even own this card just because it was so bad. I didn't see a reason at the time to own it. So at the start of each turn, if this is the only arts and culture card in your deck, your cards, wherever they are, gain +1 until played. But there's supposed to be a secret condition or secret ability attached to this now. So I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that, so I'm not going to speculate what I've heard yet just because I'm not confirmed. I have not confirmed it, so we're going to go ahead and skip that for now. Let's see. Jumping into the first of the Nerfs, we saw... Oh, why am I writing Nerf? We saw Eye of Horus take a hit. And I actually like this hit. I think most of you know my thoughts on Egypt. I think it was definitely a little too strong. I think I had talked about in my Nerf video hitting Lighthouse of Alexandria's permanent power. But this is just as good. They hit the permanent power on Eye of Horus, which is really the same concept. And what they did is they just took out Ancient Egypt from the original text where it says, if played in the right slot and next to Eye of Ra, your Egyptian mythology and Ancient Egypt cards get the +14 perm. Now it's +16 perm, so it got a little buff, but it's targeting Egyptian mythology, which I feel like was a little underutilized to begin with. So maybe that pushes people now more into the Egyptian mythology. I doubt it. And you can see Eye of Ra kind of focusing more on sun and sight and yada, yada, yada. So not the greatest. I would like to see, like I talked about in my previous video, more buffs on the sun. I think if you added some cards that added permanent stats to that, I think it would be really beneficial and make the sun more playable. And then you could jump in a lot more Egyptian mythology cards if they buffed the sun specifically. So I think that would be really cool to see. I don't know that that's coming anytime soon, but I would like it. So Egypt as a whole saw 2 nerfs. This one in Eye of Horus, which I think was really significant because it lost a lot of permanent power on its cards now. And then we saw the nerf to Curse of the Pharaohs as well. So it went from a draw effect on your bottom stat there to now a return effect that says your Ancient Egypt cards, wherever they are, gain plus 24 until played, but it's on return. So not a huge nerf, but definitely hits it a little bit. So you're going to have to wait an extra turn now before you get the full benefit. So it's not buffing itself. It's not buffing other Ancient Egypt cards when you draw it right away. So that little bit of delay could definitely matter, right? So that's, what is that, 24 times 3 essentially, potentially, that's nerfing. So quite a good nerf there. So I haven't played Egypt now that with the nerfs, so I don't know how strong it is. I do think seeing 2 cards get nerfed, though, that it is going to lose some traction in the meta. I don't think we're going to see it as often. I think you're still going to see it. I just don't think you're going to see it as often. Now, jumping over to a card I actually predicted Dead Nuts, I believe. I have to go back and watch my video, but I want to say I did take it in my video from plus 21 to plus 18 until played, bringing it down to the likes of some of the other cards in its class. So I think that was definitely needed with Statue of Liberty. I think 21 was too much. I am curious to see if 18, how that shakes out in the meta. I think it's still going to be very playable. So Statue of Liberty, I don't think is going to go away at all. I think you're still going to see a lot of people playing it just because 18 is still so significant, especially when you combo with Beowulf and you combo with, there's just so many other good cards in the 6 category that Shakespeare Folio, you can combo. I know it got nerfed as well, but obviously they were targeting that specific statue Bayo deck as I anticipated. I don't think Bayo needed a nerf, which I'm glad they didn't touch it. I think it was fine where it's at. I think they just needed to hit one, either statue or Bayo, and I'm glad they hit statue. I think it was definitely the choice. I do think, though, unfortunately, with the nerf to statue, that we're going to see a push into the 9/9 brew, Science, Arts, and Culture. I think it just makes sense because that deck between Vitruvian Man and Consciousness, between those 2 cards alone, you're getting plus 36 until played. And in my video, I mentioned I really wish they would have hit one of those 2 cards as well. I think the 36 until played for 2 cards is really strong. I just don't know that the meta is going to be able to handle that now without Bayo's Statue of Liberty to contend anymore. I mean, it might still contend, but I don't think it's going to be as strong. I think you're going to see a lot of movement into that 9/9 class, especially early on until people really feel the meta out. I think it's just going to be a safe play since most people have probably already played that, and that deck didn't really get hit. So I think that's a mistake on their part. Personally, we'll see how it shakes out. I really wish also they would have hit Testudo. Like I said in the past, I think between marsupials kind of coming about now, just because its energy efficiency is so good that it can just slot Testudo in and just get, easy round wins, it feels like. And Testudo also, the fact that, in high energy weeks, it almost feels like everybody plays it. It's just an auto include. And I don't like playing in metas where it feels like one card, if you don't include it in your deck, you're not competing. And I just don't like how that is in the meta. So I think they should have touched Testudo, like I said in the past, maybe bring it from plus 48 down to plus 40. I think that would make it just as viable. I'll go pull that up just so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Testudo. Your cards, wherever they are, gain plus 48 and cost plus 3 this round. So you're getting that 288 power on the round is really strong. Yeah, you're paying all the energy for it, but if you already have excess energy and you need a way to spend it, it just makes sense that this is almost a free holy grail at that point that you're playing on a specific round. So especially in a lower energy week, if you have energy efficient cards, that can just be backbreaking on a deck that does not have that and cannot slot a Testudo in their deck. So in my mind, that is the reason it needs to be whacked. But back to the cards they actually nerfed. So we're going to touch on Folio real quick. This card was probably one of the best cards in the game, in my opinion, if not the best. I think it definitely needed hit, and I think it was an interesting hit what they did here. Previously, it was two, when played, two of each of your random Weird World document and battle cards, wherever they are, gain 25 perm. Now it's two of each of your other random Weird document and battle cards, wherever they are, gain plus 25 perm. So you can't easily slot it. I mean, you can still put it in the Statue of Liberty 666 brew, but it's not targeting itself. So you're automatically losing. There's one card now that it's not going to get hit, so you're essentially taking a nerf there on at least one card not getting targeted. So instead of 6, you're down to 5. Or you have to play it in a different type of deck that can play the 7th card, right? So you're getting the full benefit from Folio. So I like that they did that. It's kind of a sly way of still targeting the Statue of Liberty brew that this was so fondly put in. So, but it can still get the full potential in specific decks, which is nice. So I really like that, how they kind of went around this card to still make it really good, but not as good as it was. So, and I think the fact that it's not hitting itself, it's going to make this card feel a lot worse when you do play it on a specific round and its power level's pretty low and you might lose that specific turn or something, but you're benefiting later now, right? Because it's not buffing itself. So late game, this card feels kind of bad to play in my mind now, where before this card was seeing the majority of the buffs as well into the late game. So when you played it, it didn't feel bad where you were going to lose that round or lose that turn by playing that card. So now you're going to have that stipulation attached to this, and I think it's going to make it a little bit worse, and you're going to notice it. You could easily lose rounds because of it if you didn't cycle it properly. So yeah, that's my take on Folio. I think it's still going to see a lot of action, though. It's probably still going to be auto-slotted into the 666 decks with Statue, but I think it's definitely going to be a little less painful for us. And next up, they hit Identity Theft, which I did predict this one. I didn't call the change right. I did see this as an option though that they would do. So they basically took it from an until played effect. So your cards, for every legendary card in your opponent's deck up to a max of 10, your cards in hand gain +4 until played. They now gain +4 this turn. So it's really only affecting 3 cards now instead of 5. So I think that's a good play, right? So definitely a nerf. Maybe too harsh of a nerf, depending, but definitely needed. This card was running rampant and definitely an issue, especially when you can easily slot it with a lot of these 666 decks or Beowulf decks. It was just such an obvious pick. High energy weeks, that 8 energy wasn't a problem. Magna Carta hits it as well, so it just really made sense in Beowulf. But yeah, I think you're still going to see it a little bit. I don't think this card's going to go away. It's still pretty decent, but the fact that it's not until played anymore definitely does bring it down a notch. But yeah, I definitely think there was some other cards that could have been buffed as well, but I'm hoping they start going more on a bi-monthly schedule or maybe even a monthly schedule of sorts, start hitting more buffs more frequently. I think the game definitely could use some more playable cards. Meta-wise, I could see also a Great Dying coming into effect. Oh, I did build a couple decks that I thought would be cool to show here. I'll probably do some videos maybe in the next couple days playing some of these decks. So here's a cool deck I put together, kind of like what maybe a new meta would shake out. I think we could see Eros making a comeback now that Statue of Liberty's been nerfed a little bit. This is giving +20 until played on your album, on your cards, whereas Statue of Liberty was only giving +8, or is only giving +18 now. So Eros, I think, could see a comeback, especially comboed with a Beowulf type deck, something like this build here. This is kind of cool. I did slot in Attenborosaurus, which I think is kind of a sleeper in this deck specifically. I did slot in as my Eros always usually needs 6 cards of some sort, so I slotted the 6 life on land, 2 oceans, and 2 paleo, so 10 cards do receive the +15 buff here for 6 turns, so that's pretty strong. And then obviously Magna Carta for the energy reduction. Those are the 4 legendary cards, and then slotted in the rest epics. I think Black Cayman too, with the buff to James. If we do start seeing more life on land, this card could start seeing more play, along with a card like Permafrost. Your opponent's life on land cards get that +2 energy cost. So if we do see more James decks running around now that the meta's kind of steering that direction, especially Oceans and Seas got buffed too. So like I said, Black Cayman does affect Oceans as well. -20 on the rounds. Pretty significant. Could affect their whole deck. So that's really, 9 cards for, a whole round. 9 cards for 20. That's pretty good. -180 for Black Cayman, potentially. So I like that play. I'm kind of surprised we didn't see Reaper get hit on the nerf. I think that was would have been logical as well. But, hopefully, maybe we'll see it in the past. I do think debuff is in a bad spot, and I do want to see more cards at debuff. So maybe that's why they didn't really hit that card. But, here's some type of brew you could potentially see gaining traction. Like I said before, I do think we're going to see Vitruvian Consciousness decks running rampant. And look, I can even slot something like Beowulf in there as well, since it didn't get hit. Maybe Jet Car, and then we just rock some tons of epic cards in here that are just decent cards overall to play. And you could see something maybe like this taking off in the meta, I would think. There's also, surprisingly, this new Mythic card, I feel like, especially in a lower energy week, with Chugi. I like this. I played this deck not just the other day, I want to say, and it was hitting really hard. So the Mythic, Splinter Cat, Mythical Creatures, and American Folklore. I could see this picking up steam, especially high energy weeks. I do like Atomic Theories too. I think this card's really strong. So we see this in Marsupials. We see this in some other life on land decks. So again, it could make sense that a lot more people shift into life on land decks. So again, I think seeing cards like Black Cayman and Permafrost. We still have Birds too, which is still relevant. So it just kind of makes sense, Here's another one I think is kind of sleeping. People are sleeping on right now, especially with these nerfs. I think you could see Unruly Rulers make a comeback, a little resurgence, like I said earlier. This deck has a ton of buffs. So, like, look at this. You got +19 here, +28 on your Unruly Rulers, +25 until played there. You can get another +12, another +16. Jousting gives them another Unruly, another 15. Chess gives them +12. Corgi gives them +18. I mean, that's like 145 until played power on Unruly Rulers. And then just slot in a bunch of random ones that don't matter, like Emperor Kinfee will be like a 5 energy, 200 power card. I could see this definitely taking off, especially Andronicus giving buffs as well. You've got Saint Chapel. Look at this, hits them permanently in hand. +13. I mean, there's so much potential here. Ballet, history cards, +22. So, I don't know. I feel like we're going to see Unruly Rulers make a comeback. I'm calling it now. I think it's definitely viable. That's about it. So, I'm going to cut it at that. You guys can let me know in the comments what you thought of the video, speculations, and if you have any predictions as well, I'd like to hear them. I do prefer your guys' feedback as well. Definitely let me know in the comments. And, if you guys got some other buffs and nerf ideas in the future, if you have some ideas specifically, drop them on me, and I can always include them in a future video. I do love speculation videos. I think it's fun to speculate where the game's going and where it's been. So let me know what you guys think. As always, thanks for watching.